What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. My name is Sean Sheehan, and today I am looking ahead to the next PFL event, which will be the 6th of 2024, and it goes down in the Sanford Pentagon in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and it's a very, very interesting night in the Professional Fighters League as the featherweights and the welterweights go up against each other to find their place in the finale. In the semi-finale first, I suppose, and then into the finale. And it's these are probably the two strongest divisions. You could argue that anyway. Maybe some people would argue the lightweights. The women's division is pretty good as well this year. But it's good that is an argument, and it's good that that's a chat this year, because from the very start, it wasn't. There might have been one good division or a few good fighters, and then it's gotten better and better and better. And we're looking ahead to next year, and if some of the fighters that have come in from Bellator and are put with the PFL guys, as they have been this year, but even more and better, and some of the new signings as well, like Paul Hughes and Mark Chikasi and others, all come in, we could have an unbelievable array of season tournaments here. So I'm very much looking forward to this weekend, but also coming weekends over the coming years. And PFL is one of those promotions, I think, where that is a real thing. Like what we have, we kind of know what we have to look forward to, or we could possibly have to look forward to, and if they can deliver, it'd be absolutely unbelievable. So but what we have here, as I said, is a slate of very talented fighters in the featherweight and welterweight division. Let me just give you the breakdown of the tables as we go. I don't know, what do they call them here in the PFL? Because they just call them the standings. They like to call it the season, which is like a Premier League thing. They should probably call it the table as well, but maybe they do call it the table. Anyway, I'm going to call it the table. I'll continue to do that. Let's get to the featherweights. First one, 45 pounds. Brendan Loughnane and Gabriel Braga are right up at the very top on 6 points after their finishes and wins. And then we've 3 people on 3 points: Timur Khizriev, Adam Baruch, Kai Kamaka, and then we have fighters, and all of them obviously 1-0 so far, and then the rest of the fighters all 0-1 and on 0 points. Bubba, Jenkins, Enrique, Barzola, Brett Johns, Justin Gonzales, and Pedro Carvalho, and all 10 of these lads are all fighting on the card that I'm about to preview coming up, so that's very good. No injuries or anything there. Where am I? Touch wood. Now, by the time this video comes out, that could very well have changed. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the same goes for the welterweights. So we have 2 men atop the table here with Don Madge and Murad Ramazanov, both on 6 points. Then we have on 5 points Shamil Musaev, with on 3 points both Magomed Umalatov and Goiti Yamauchi, with all 0 or 1-0, and then all 0-1 on 0 points Gracie, Koreshkov, Storley, Ward, and Staropoli. So I'll tell you, like, there's a lot of names. If you think the lads on 0 points, like actually Staropoli's on -1, he missed away at the last time, but like Storley, former obviously fought for the title, was thereabouts. Brennan Ward, one of the biggest stars for a long time for Bellator. Koreshkov, former champion. Neiman Gracie, so massive for the quality of the cards here. And like, you even look at the featherweight division too, like Brett Johns, a lot of people are talking him as one of the best bantamweights, we'll say, and obviously moving up to the featherweight as well, that Bellator have had for the last few years. Same could be said for Barzola. Bubba Jenkins has been around a long time. Carvalho as well, obviously fought for the title. So and those, I'm not even mentioning the guys who are on 6 points or 5 points or 3 points there. So it's a good lineup of fighters, no doubt about it. So let's get to the fights, because there's a lot to talk about in these fights. Usually I like to look at maybe 3 to 4 of the top matchups and kind of break those down more, and then kind of run through the rest and give you my quick thoughts on them. This one, I think I'll have to share that love a little bit, because there's too many very, very good fights on this one. So we will run through them all and give my thoughts on all of them, because or nearly all of them, because there's a lot of very, very good fights on this. Let's start with Brendan Loughnane and his fight with Justin Gonzales, and it's a very, very interesting fight. looking, obviously we know a lot about Brendan Loughnane. He's 34 years of age now, which shocked me a minute ago when I pulled up in the Sherdog profile to see that, because I always think of Loughnane as like a 25-year-old, you know, because that's what I suppose maybe I started seeing him fighting and stuff years and years and years ago. But you know, he's getting on now, but he's doing well, and he's obviously at the best part of his career here over the last few years since he went into the PFL. What a run it's been, you know. He's won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 2, I think, or around that anyway, if my Sherdog maths add up right there. You know, and the levels of guys he's beaten have been absolutely incredible. And you know, I suppose the win over Pedro Carvalho last time out, we all know, it was the early stoppage there, but he looked great to start that fight. Looked probably better than he did in the last couple of seasons there, apart from which fight was it? Let me just look here. I think it was the Chris Wade fight where he looked absolutely unbelievable. It was, I think, in the playoffs. But other than that, you know, because Brendan, he said it himself, like, he's been carrying injuries, and the turnaround from fights has been hard for him. And, you know, that Raishi Kudo fight was very tough, and the turnaround from that quickly was tough as well. And, you know, these seasons are hard, and it's not always, you know, possible to turn up at your absolute best. And you know, he got through it and won the million at one stage, got through it obviously a lot of the way in other seasons as well. So it's not an excuse or anything, but it's just a matter of fact for most people, I think. But again, he looked phenomenal last time out. Only a minute and 26 in there. Look, as again, we know about the stoppage, but it looked like he was going and he was on his way to win the fight. He was a big favourite coming into it. But that short amount of time, I think, will very much benefit him in the converse or the inverse even converse of pair of shoes of what I was saying a second ago, like that he doesn't have a lot of time in there, doesn't have a lot of time to pick up injuries and everything like that. So I think he'll be coming in fresher. And we know the way Brendan fights. I've never thought this way before. He's a fresh fighter. When you see Brendan kind of flown and throwing his shots and throwing his jab and throwing his backhand behind it and, you know, getting a takedown, throwing the leg kicks, he moves and he's a flow, and he's one of those guys who I feel like Brendan is one of those guys, if he had 10 weeks of sparring and nothing else, that'd be the best thing for him to prepare for a fight, or maybe not 10 weeks, but you know what I mean. He feels like once he's in that fighting flow, he's very hard to beat. And I think against Gonzales, you know, it's a weird thing to say, but that's the way he wins this fight. Gonzales, you know, he's a good fighter as well. Not on the best run, obviously. He's lost 3 in a row now. Lost to Braga in the PFL 3 earlier on this year after losing to Khizriev and Bernal. Looked 3 very good fighters. But before that, he'd beaten Andrew Fisher and beaten Kai Kamaka. And I know Kai Kamaka was calling him out and wanted to fight him as well. But he's been in there with some really good guys. Fought Aaron Pico as well. Look, his wins over Zach Zane and Tyron Claxton and a few more as well. So, you know, I suppose he is looking for that standout win of his career, and this would be it without a shadow of a doubt. You know, he started off his career, I believe, as an amateur and as a pro, as something like 20-0. So when you're a guy like that, and, you know, okay, he's lost 4 fights since, but you know, you're a winner. You are an absolute winner. And once you kind of, you know, you get back in, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago as well. Some guys like that, they're winners, and then they lose and then never win again, you know. But he lost Aaron Pico, came back and beat Kai Kamaka and Andrew Fisher. Okay, he lost a few fights since that again, but it showed he has the ability to bounce back from it. And what's to say he won't bounce back again? You know, Loughnane, obviously a very difficult opponent, but I think Gonzales has that on his side. What kind of fighter is Gonzales? Like, I wouldn't say he's the most technical fighter in the world, but he's tough. You know, he loves a body lock takedown. He's really strong on top, rip shots into the body. But watching him fight Khizriev, then he's really struggled with Khizriev's forward motion. He obviously struggled when the fight went to the ground as well, but Khizriev, as we'll talk about a little bit later on, is a top fighter. But I just thought the counters, which watching some of his other fights, he is able to land counters, and he does land counters, but he just couldn't land anything on that fight. And I think if you're Loughnane, you look at that fight, you do exactly what I just said a second ago. You interflowy, be, you know, be the fighter you are in terms of confidence and all of that. And I think that takes away Justin Gonzalez's best attributes. It takes away the ability to kind of clinch and take you down and the top control, and it takes away, funnily enough, like you attacking him takes away the counters, because you standing there and attacking in the odd time gives him the chance to clock those counters and time those counters. Whereas if you're constantly kind of attacking like Khizriev is, that hard jab, Jesus, the jab of Khizriev, unbelievable. Loughnane can do that as well, though, and I think that's the way to win this fight if you're Brendan Loughnane, and I'm picking Loughnane for that reason. I think he can do that, and I think he'll win this fight. Then we have Logan Storley against Laureano Staropoli. That's down as the co-main event here. I wonder I'm just opening it here. Logan Storley, where's he from? He's from South Dakota. Okay, that makes sense. Otherwise, I'd be thinking, what is this doing? Does go main event? Not that it's a bad fight or anything like that, but I would expect Storley to win with a wrestle-heavy game plan, and that's not going to be the most exciting, I don't think. Watching Staropoli in his fight against Ramazanov. Now, again, Ramazanov is a very different level, even to Logan Storley, who I think is very good, but he was. He gave him fits with the wrestling, but also fits with the striking as well. And looking back at some of Staropoli's older fights, he's not the worst defensive wrestler in the world. He tries very hard, and he does get out of a lot of situations when he is taken down, but he does get taken down. And a guy like Storley, who has elite wrestling, is going to take a guy like Staropoli down. We even saw in the Ramazanov fight, though, he is dangerous. He throws flying knees and throws the odd Max Holloway-like spinning kick to the body. As a few lads in this card get that, which we'll get to hopefully later on here. But, he's a very good fighter, fighting out of, the Diego Lima camp, which seems to be doing really, really well over the last while. He's a finisher as well, with 9 finishes out of 13, and being in there with some top guys from Ramazanov to Roman Dolidze, Tim Means, Muslim Salikov. He beat Thiago Alves. He beat he's a few wins in Aries as well, which is a very good promotion here in Europe. So he's no joke at all. But the only thing I would doubt in Storley is that he hasn't really picked up a top win in a long time. Now, he beat Brennan Ward, but, he's a nightmare matchup for Brennan Ward, let's be honest. The last big win he got was MVP in 2022, and I think that was a robbery of the year. He lost to Amasov a couple of times, obviously, and got badly beaten in the second fight. So, for as good as Logan Storley is, he doesn't really have that top win. Now, is Staropoli that top guy either? I don't think so. But, he might be the level. You never know, but I don't think so. I think Storley will take him down, and I think he will win that fight. The next fight, I think, is a similar sort of kind of, there'll be a big favorite here. I think this will probably be the minus 9,000 fight or maybe minus 900. Yeah, minus 900 fight on the card with Magomed Umalatov against Brennan Ward. Umalatov, an absolute beast of a fighter. You look at the Dagestan, you look at Umalatov, and you think, oh, this guy's just a wrestler. But 15 wins, 11 knockouts, only 1 submission in there, and he's just really good, a really good technical fighter who, no doubt about it, he can take you down and beat you on the ground if you want, but he's a very good jab, very good all-around fighter. And look, if he wants to fight on the feet, that might play into Brennan Ward's hands, because Brennan can hit hard, there's no doubt about it. But, Brennan was obviously out for a good long time there, didn't fight between 2017 and 2022, came back and won 3 fights in a row, looked good. But look, he lost to Logan Storley and Don Madge. And I just don't think he's at that level anymore. Like, he's a guy who made his debut all the way back in 2008. He's been on the road a very, very long time, and I have a lot of respect for Brennan Ward, but you're going in here against a guy like Magomed Umalatov, who has beaten Andrey Koreshkov, Gerald Al-Sholawi, Delino Taylor, Leandro Silva, and many more as well. An absolute beast of a fighter, unbeaten. The last lad to to beat him was Ramazan Magomedov as an amateur, and it was Muhammad Barkamov before that as an amateur. So these are the guys he's fighting as an amateur, never mind as a pro. Yeah, I think it's going to be very, very tough for Brendan Ward to win that one. Then we have Gabriel Braga against Bubba Jenkins. And again, just one point I want to make here about, say, guys like Braga, Jenkins, probably the perfect examples of it, but also guys like, let's even a Barzola or a Yamauchi or Carvalho, Kamaka, Don Madge, Gracie, Brett Johns. All of these guys, and I said it a couple of weeks ago as well, all of these guys are fighting for their future in the $1 million tournament, because there's going to be a lot of fighters next year who, a lot of fighters this year had only just kind of signed over and they were getting contracts ready. And are you going to fight in Bellator? Are you going to fight in PFL? Look, we only have a few weeks to get the season together, and they got the season together. But next year, there is going to be lads lining up for this. And as I mentioned at the start of the podcast as well, in your, which depending on which weight class it is, you have, Paul Hughes, Mark Casey, and I'm sure there's 5 or 6 other lads as well who they'll have signed by then. I'm sure lads will come over from the UFC as well, or maybe one, or maybe they'll sign up and coming guys as well. Plus you have the PFL MENA, plus you have the PFL Europe, guys like that, like Jacob and Dye last week, who won it and came over. You'll definitely have guys like that coming over and competing as well. So if you're, Staropoli, Brendan Ward, Braga, Jenkins, you're fighting for your life here. You're fighting for your place in the PFL's big tournaments, and it adds something extra. And I think especially to a guy like Bubba Jenkins, who has been around a long time now, 36 years of age. He's been fighting for PFL and Bellator for a long time, but he started with PFL in 2021. It feels like a lot longer because of all the seasons, but he had how many, 10 or so fights in Bellator as well, starting all the way back in 2013. So a guy who's been there, done that, seen it and done it all. And, his record over the last while has been, I suppose, 50-50. Lost to Kaikamaka and Pinedo, lost to Brendan Loughnane, but beat Sung Binjo, Chris Wade, Ryuji Kudo, all around that as well, and won more fights in the X, and Bosniak beat him. It's a very interesting time. Look, Gabriel Braga, he was the standout competitor of last year, I suppose, for... up until the finale, beat Chris Wade, beat Marlon Rice, beat Pinedo, until he went on and he lost to Pinedo in the finale. It was an unbelievable run for him after coming through the Challenger Series and beating Ago Husic there as well. So a very interesting fight here. Bubba Jenkins, like the only guy who kind of didn't fight last year, I suppose. But Braga, he's had a tough time as well. He's only 26 years of age, and I think his father passed away, and it'll be very interesting to see I suppose the preparation levels. Obviously, he fought once already and he won against Justin Gonzales pretty comprehensively in the first round there, and he looked good. Very emotional night, and to bounce back from that, I'm sure will take it. And when I say bounce back, you're bouncing back from a win, but still an emotional night, an emotional time. And I suppose there's a release there, and that was only in April. And what have we made? June, July. June, actually 2 months, is it? Not a lot of time to kind of come around from that, give yourself a couple of weeks off and things, but that's what this is about. And I suppose he's getting used to it now, and Bubba Jenkins is definitely used to it. But we know what Bubba is, and we know what Braga is as fighters. Braga is more, you would say, a striker. You could say this is a striker versus a wrestler, but I think Jenkins has improved his striking over the years and has gotten more aggressive because he knows he can wrestle behind it. But you see when Bubba meets someone like Brendan Loughnane, especially, who's a superior striker. You saw it in bits and pieces against Kai Kamaka too, although I don't think Kai was maybe at his best that night. But, he's just lacking that little bit against someone who is very fluid and very good with their hands. And I think Braga is that. I think he proved last year he's on that level, and I think he probably proved that he's slightly above the level of Bubba Jenkins even. But as I said with Bubba, he's always in there with a chance, and I think he could cause Braga a few problems possibly here, but no, I'm going to go for Braga in this one, and I think his striking will win the day for him. Lorenz, Larkin and Alan Dominguez is the one fight I'm thinking as well on this card that maybe you know, this isn't, if I'm correct, the welterweight division. Let me just check you out here again. So the welterweights, Lorenz Larkin's not in this, so this is not a tournament fight. But it's an interesting fight in the middle. It's a bit of a slight bit of a mismatch, I think. Like watching a few Alan Dominguez fights, he can wrestle, right? He's a good wrestler, but his striking leaves a lot to be desired. Like he has 5 knockouts in his career, but I would bet, without going back and watching them all, I'd bet a lot of them are probably ground and pound. But I was watching a couple of his fights, and he gets very tired if he can't get the takedown, and he usually does get the takedown, to be fair. But I think Lorenz Larkin, former middleweight, Dominguez, I believe he's fought at 115, if I'm not wrong. I think he's going to be way undersized in this. Maybe not in terms of height or anything like that, but I think in terms of physical size, he's actually taller than Larkin. But he fights small and low as well. I think if Dominguez can get the takedown, look, he'll do very well. But I think Larkin is a guy who has fought many wrestlers down through the years and beat many wrestlers as well. If you look at his record and some of the guys he's beaten, like Mohamed Burkamov, there's no way Dominguez is a better wrestler than him, or even Andrey Karashkov. I know he's more of a striker and things, but Neil Magny, Ponzinibbio, John Howard, Chris Camozzi, Robbie Lawler, he's beaten all these guys. There's no way Dominguez is better than him. Or better than any of them. So I think this will be kept on the feet, and when the fight is kept on the feet with Lorenz Larkin, unless he's fighting someone really good in the feet, which Dominguez isn't, I think it's curtains, and I think Lorenz Larkin will add to his 13 knockouts in this one, almost certainly. The fight of the night here, without a shadow of a doubt, is the next one. Murad Ramazanov against Shamil Musaev. I have no idea who's going to win this one. I've watched a lot of Ramazanov over the last few years. Obviously, he was the one champion, and I cover a lot of one as well. And, he went in there against Sebastian Kadestam, who is, an absolute beast of a fighter. He knocked out Roberto Soldic in the second round. Obviously, Ramazanov himself fought Soldic, but that ended with the accidental low blow and a no contest, so that rematch wasn't put together. But to beat Kadestam the way he did, God Almighty, he absolutely destroyed Staropoli in the first fight here. This guy's an absolute beast. Went back, as I said, watched the Staropoli fight, dropped him with a jab. He's just such power in his hands. He's really good and a really good wrestler. And the Messiah, go back watching Musaev as well, a very similar sort of thing. Look at him against Storley. He just battered him around the place. The power in his hands, well, I think he dropped Storley as well with a jab. I think Musaev is, and maybe I'm wrong and we'll find out the weekend, I think Musaev is probably a slightly better striker. I think Ramazanov maybe a slightly better wrestler. Although I don't know, it's very hard to decipher how good, because we're talking about top of the top level here. And I was going to say top of the top level prospects here, but I don't know if that's true. We might be talking top of the top level fighters here. Like, if you put either of these lads in with Jason Jackson or Kuram Magomedov or Bilal Muhammad or Leon Edwards, would they be out of place? Absolutely not. Not in the slightest. These lads are unbelievable fighters. And, we saw Musaev over in KSW winning a load of fights there. You don't do that unless you're a top fighter. He's one draw over there against Mikhail Khizriev, who's a very good fighter as well. As I said, destroyed Logan Storley last time out. I don't know. I think Musaev has done more in his career so far than Ramazanov. That Kadestam win is probably the best win of all of them. I really don't know who's going to win this one. Maybe the question is Musaev's wrestling good enough to stop Ramazanov? And I've been thinking, I asked myself that question before I started recording here, and I'll tell you what, I was like, I'll come up with the answer as I'm recording, and I'll be honest with you lads, I don't really have the answer. This is the fight I just want to sit down and enjoy, and I'll be on the edge of my seat for this one, and this is maybe the hipster's delight, that these are two fighters that every MMA fan probably should know, but probably doesn't know. I can't wait for it. I can't wait. I'm going to pick Ramazanov because I just think he is. I've liked him for a long while. I think he's absolutely brilliant. I think the same of Musaev, but I don't know. I really don't have a strong feel on it. But I'll tell you what, if Musaev can stop that takedown, can he get a takedown of his own as well, maybe? I think he could cause Ramazanov problems. But Ramazanov can strike as well. He can strike as well. I cannot wait for this one, but I'm going to go with my guy Ramazanov. I just think he's very, very good. It doesn't stop after that. Then Timur Khizriev against Enrique Barzola. It's just a brilliant fight. Tough one maybe on Barzola to get this sort of matchmaking here after losing to Barks last time out. And I love a bit of Barzola. I know a lot of people here remember I gave him to beat Nikita Mikhailov, and it was one of the best bets I gave at the very start of this show when this is back in 2022, so I think I'd started it just a couple of months before, and I watched a lot of them before that, and I was like, this is bad style matchup here, and I think mostly that's because Barzola's, he has good takedown defense most of the time, and he's a very good striker. The problem with fighting a guy like Khizriev is he's a very good wrestler, but he's also a brilliant striker, and he is a guy like Barzola who is a very good, well, two very good things: gas tank and chin, which you'll need. But when he's taken apart Brett Johns, Gonzales, beat Richie Smullen, Daniel Weichel, some very, very, very good wins there. Obviously, when he fought Richie Smullen, a fellow Irishman here, I watched a good bit of him and was like, "Oh, this is that's a tough matchup for Richie." And I think it's a tough matchup for anyone. I think he's proven it since. And just a guy like one of these guys, a little bit again like Leon Edwards, is always the yardstick for me, where no big weaknesses, maybe not the absolute best in the world and anything, but no weaknesses. And I think Barzola is a similar type of fighter, but I think Khizriev is probably younger and a little bit higher level. Only 28 years of age as well. Barzola 35 now, maybe getting on a little bit. And I would, he lost to Barracks last time out. I think it might look similar this one, so I'm gonna pick Khizriev to win that one via decision. Yamauchi and Koreshkov then. Look, it's going to be very difficult for Koreshkov if Yamauchi gets the fight to the ground. I love looking at his record and seeing those 29 wins and 21 submissions. Beat Nyman Gracie last time out, lost MVP. Before that, we know he shattered his leg, and he's some very good wins around that. Koreshkov, at 33 years of age, has had, I suppose, an up and down career, ranging from the very good to the disappointing, I suppose, losing to Ben Askren early in his career, then losing to Lima twice, then I suppose losing to Lorenz, Larkin, and now losing to Umalatov last time out. It's almost when he's at the very peak of his powers, or you think he's going to go to that next level, he loses. And I know he went back and he beat Lorenz Larkin as well, but this is a massive fight for him. Like he lost and finds himself, on 0 points. He needs to win this fight against Yamauchi, and I think he probably will. I think the problem with Yamauchi a lot of the time is, and you look at it there in the record, 5 decision wins and 5 decision losses. I think sometimes when he can't get the fight to the ground, it turns into a closer fight, and you're not always fighting a guy with the ability of Koreshkov. I think Koreshkov will stop the takedown. I think his takedown defense has gotten an awful lot better. If he doesn't, Yamauchi could very well submit him, but I'm going to pick Koreshkov to win the decision. I think he'll stop the takedown, as I said, and just jab him up and land those big shots. I don't think Yamauchi's striking on the feet is great. He's only 3 knockouts in his career as well. Doesn't carry a lot of power. So, although I don't fully believe in Koreshkov, I'm going to pick him to win the decision in that one with his striking. Kai Kamaka and Pedro Carvalho as well. That's going to be a very close striking matchup as well. You could argue that Pedro, if he lands, has the bigger power. Although he's, again, not a guy with a lot of knockouts in his career, but has hurt a few fellas and ended up submitting them and stuff afterwards. Kai Kamaka, again, he's only 1 knockout in his career, but he's improved so much over the last while. Won 4 in a row. Corrales and Jenkins, the last 2 good wins for him. I think, like Pedro, every so often, he beats a guy like Burnell, he beats a guy like Weichel, he beats a guy like Sam Cecilia, and he's a lot of losses in between all of those. He has lost, 6 of his last 8 fights. For a guy as good as Pedro, that's not good. Like, and it's, it's weird because he is so talented. But like, look at the lads he's lost to: Loughnane, Pico, Jeremy Kennedy, Peter Nijelski, JJ Wilson, Patricio Ferreira. It's only the top type guys he's losing to. Like, you could argue that apart from maybe JJ Wilson, that Kai Kamaka, you could argue, maybe I'm wrong, but that all the rest of those guys are better than him or slightly better than him. So what does that prove? It doesn't prove anything, but it proves that Pedro won't necessarily automatically lose to a guy like Kai, because all the lads he has been losing to basically are better, are equal to him at best. Having said that, I feel like if someone is to land a big shot and get the knockout, it'll be Pedro. And I feel like the longer it goes, or if it goes to a decision, I think Kai is very good at winning decisions. As we've seen with Pedro, he's lost a good few decisions. And he's actually won more than he's lost. Won 5 and lost 3, so my point is out the door. But I just get the feeling that Kai over 15 minutes might have enough. Might be a little bit more streetwise that way, and I think he's kind of used to it. He's, as I said, a lot of his fights have gone to a decision as well. 11 wins by decision, if I'm not mistaken, 1 draw thrown in there as well. So, I don't know what the deciding factor in this one will be, to be honest. I think it might be the fact that Kai Kamaka is kind of on a positive part of his career, having won 4 in a row. Won 5 of his last 6. The Justin Gonzales fight was a split decision. There was a draw before that. Like, he could very well be on a 7-fight winning streak now. Whereas Pedro, as I called out, he's lost 3 in a row. Maybe that's the difference. Maybe the pressure that's on Pedro. Maybe Kai can fight with a bit more freedom, and maybe that'll be the difference. And I'm gonna pick Kai, but I'm very, very much not sure. I think this will be a closer fight than people will make out. The last couple of season fights, then we have Jordan Oliver, who's a very good wrestler, against Isaiah Hawkett on the undercard. Luca Poclit against Zaki Joshua as well at welterweight. Luca Poclit, obviously out of SPG, a very good fighter. Thailand Diamond as well. Featherweight against Jose Perez. But then we have Don Madge against Nyman Gracie and Adam Barrocks against Brett Johns. First of all, Madge and Gracie. Gracie been around for a very, very long time. Fighting at the very top of Bellator, and with some good wins, be John Fitch, Ed Root, Dante Shiro and all that, but he's lost to Rory McDonald, Jason Jackson, Yamauchi, Storley, and Yamauchi again in most recently in the start of the PFL. Look, we all know if he can get the fight to the ground, he's going to submit you probably, but he struggles to get the fight to the ground. His striking's not amazing. He's a good jab, but not amazing other than that. Don Madge on the other side is a very good striker. He has power, good on the ground as well, although I don't think you want to be testing that out here so much. Although, he does predominantly maybe is unfair, but his last 2 wins have both been rear naked chokes. He does like to take guys to the ground and beat them up there, but I think his striking is far superior to Nyman Gracie. Best thing he can do here, I think, is keep it up, jab him, and keep jabbing him. And I think Madge will probably win the decision here. That would be my pick in this one. I think simple enough one. Don't let Gracie take you down. Win the decision. And then Adam Barrocks, Brett Johns. This is a phenomenal fight. John's one of those guys that's been really shouting out. Well, a bit of shouting too. For an opportunity for the last few years. And look, he's got it. Got a really tough fight against Khizriev and ended up losing that via unanimous decision. So this is massive. He has to win this fight to get through. Barrocks beat Barzola the first time around. He probably, depending on how things work out. Let's see how many points he's on at the moment. Is Barrocks? He's on 3 points. Yeah, so he needs to win this fight as well. He probably does need to win this fight as well, because one of Kamaka or Jenkins, Barzola, Johns, Gonzales, Carvalho would probably get a win, probably get a knockout in there as well. So he is very, very, very vulnerable in that position. So big fight for him as well. It'd be interesting, like, Barrocks only lost a few fights in his career, one to Darian Caldwell, one to Patricio, obviously, one striker, one wrestler. Johns has been trying to wrestle lots of lads recently, and he's done a good job of it. Will he be able to wrestle Barrocks? I'm not too sure. Now, as I said, Caldwell managed he finished him pretty quickly, I suppose. It wasn't a 5-round demolition job or a 3-round wrestling demolition job or anything like that, but and that was a good long time ago, 4 years ago now. I feel like I don't know. I really rate Barrocks really high. I rate Johns very highly as well, but I very rarely think someone who I rate that highly will lose to like a wrestle heavy game. You know, at a weight like featherweight, or let's say the lightweights or the bantamweights as well. Like, it just doesn't happen as much as it used to. Like, and I think if the fight is played out in the feet, I think Barrocks will win. So again, maybe I've made a few of these picks this time. I'm going to pick Barrocks to win. We know his flying knees. We know his jab, his ability to control a fight. I picked him going into the Patricio fight. Now, obviously, it didn't happen, but he came back and looked good against Barzola after 2 years out. You'd expect him to look even better coming in here, so I'm going to go with Adam Barrocks to win that one. And that's about it. A very fun card, a very interesting card going down on June 28, 2024 over in South Dakota. Please keep it locked to sherdog.com for all the coverage coming up to the card, during the card, and I will have a post-fight show after it as well, so make sure to lock in for that. Okay, I will leave it there. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. My name is Sean Sheehan for sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.